back, dear audience. I hope you still feel the energy from the pitching sessions, because I definitely can feel it here still. Now we're starting with our next program point after the break, which will be a new fireside chat, and that's why I slowly make my way here to this area of our stage. We're going to talk about a very, very important innovation field where a lot of founders dare to innovate in. We're going to talk about robots or robotics. And the founder that I'm going to talk to asked himself a question before he started his business. He asked himself, what if robots could be accessible to any kind of company, not only the big companies? What if we could make them accessible as a workforce also to the smaller ones? We're going to talk about this question, of course, but also about his entrepreneurial journey in general, what it takes to be a pioneer in the field of robots as a service, and what his next project is. Please welcome with me here on stage Nimrod Malinas from Robonnement. Hello, Nimrod. Nice to have you here today. So, your startup is called Robonnement, and this is a combination of two words. Pretty obvious, robot, and the French word abonnement. And we all know it as well here in Switzerland because we use it a lot. And abonnement, if you don't know it, means subscription. So the name makes it quite obvious. You offer robots as a service in a subscription model for B2B. But what exactly are you offering? So what is your service exactly?
So basically what we are doing by Robonnement, it's like an English version of saying Robonnement. Yeah, so what we are basically offering, there are some robotic workers for some jobs that very few people still want to do, dangerous, repetitive or boring tasks. Some of those, I mean, they are industrial jobs mainly. So basically what happens when a company is looking for some workers to paint, I don't know, chairs or anything, yeah, to do some kind of job, they have an option to hire a robot instead. So that's like what we are offering at Robonnement at its core, at its essence.
But not only the robots themselves, right? It's more about the whole service line, I would say. What are the additional offers that you're having?
Exactly. So the moment someone rents a robot, it's like, or hires a robot from us, they purchase the work of the robot. Mm-hmm. They don't buy a new machine, they don't buy some strange, new, exotic machinery in their factory. They pay so that this robot works, safe, reliable, and always on time. So mm-hmm. That's like, and this we achieve with some services that we offer, you know, IT or infrastructure, but also with real technicians, real programmers actually programming these robots and taking care of them.
Because that's a very specific knowledge also to have in this field, the whole technical part to set it up, for example. So let's start talking about your entrepreneurial journey. And I would say that it's maybe not a very typical one, we're going to talk about this, but you definitely already had the entrepreneurship in your DNA, I would say, because your father had a construction company and you used to work there. So how did you end up coming to Switzerland and founding Robonnement?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you ask this question in this context, because growing up in an entrepreneurial family and understanding what real family entrepreneurship or a family business means really shaped the entrepreneur I am today.
Of course.
And especially because I ended up in Switzerland after a failure of our family business. So I've seen it all. I've seen the success side, an upside, I've seen the downside, and I pretty much knew what it costs to be an entrepreneur. So after I was pretty young, but I needed to finish my studies, and our company, family company, had to be closed due to bankruptcy. So it wasn't a very happy situation.
Of course not.
I ended up working in construction actually
Really?
to finance my studies, and this is how life took me to Switzerland.
So you've seen it all, but then you did not start from zero, I would say, with Robonnement. You had another strategy. You purchased another company first. So tell us more about this.
Exactly. So basically, I always knew I want to do a startup, and you know, like today, if you are talking to founders, there is this very specific cliche: you have to go on a specific road. I mean, get a co-founder, get a good idea, go to ETH or HSG, make a spin-off, and that's it. Like, get some investors. But there are so many alternative ways, because entrepreneurship, in essence, it's creating something that brings value in the world. So how I did it, I've done it by starting to work in a very traditional, 90 years old small Swiss company, and creating a startup. I mean, buying that company, taking over through a management buyout, and then creating a startup out of that. And it was a great option. I mean, I wouldn't say there is a right way to start a business, but for me, it was totally the right way, because this 90 years old company, they was selling industrial equipment for industrial painting. I mean, pumps, guns, anything you need to take the paint from a bog to a workpiece. And I've seen the real needs on the field, that there are no people that want to do this job, that these jobs are very toxic, and that there is an opportunity to create something out of this. So manager buyout for young people is still a very undervalued alternative to start a business or a startup or something new. Because we think, okay, what should I do with a local bakery? Yeah, there are so many ways you could do innovation out of a bakery and create an international startup. I don't know, I just told an example.
It's unconventional, but I think a very interesting way to approach the startup way in the end. So you mentioned it already, or kind of, you did it all by yourself. You did not have a co-founder. Would you do that again?
So now I do have co-founders in the company, and knowing what it means to have somebody having your back, probably I wouldn't do it again. But if I wouldn't know what it means to have like a team with people with skin in the game, hands on deck, I would probably do it again. I mean, it had some advantages because it gave me the space to grow. I mean, I'm only 29. When I started this, I was 23. So with 23 years old, there are a lot of questions you need to settle in yourself. And, having the luxury of not having a co-founder that shapes my way into some direction, I can know that most of the decisions I took it alone. So that was okay. But from the business standpoint, absolutely you should get a co-founder and get a team, get people that have your back. That's a total another word.
It's difficult. I can imagine that you were on your personal journey to find yourself and you were starting a business. So what is really impressive, I would say, that you have some big names in your customer portfolio, such as Mercedes-Benz or Porsche. I don't know, maybe I'm making a mistake here in my mind, but I thought that your main target group would be smaller businesses who cannot afford to buy a robot. So where am I going wrong here? Why do you have all these big players?
Yes, some of the big players, we do deliver robots directly to others, to their OEMs and tier ones. Robonnement started with this vision to give access. I mean, our mission is to democratize robots. I mean, we really wanted to give access to robotics to some companies and some people that could have never dreamed of investing $250,000 in a robotic technology they never ever used in their 40 years of being in business. So we created Robonnement for them, basically. But then it pretty much evolved into a general standard for the big corporations, especially. Today, 80% of our customers are big corporations. And why? Because with all the new technology, it created this a huge amount of new technology created a void on the market. We don't have people that can keep up with programming these technologies, taking care of, making sure that cybersecurity and uptime running, everything gets real safe. So we need people, and this is why basically every robot we sell, we don't sell in the first place because of the technology, but because of the people standing behind the technology. So when a big corporation chooses to rent a technology, a hardware or a new solution, instead of buying it, it doesn't choose because he doesn't have the money, or most of our customers, they have it, they're all leasing banks, so they could do it. But they choose because they need a guaranteed uptime, OPEX, operational expenses, and not capital expenses. And at the same time, they want to make sure that that machinery for the next 5 years is guaranteed that it's working.
Before I ask for a very important tip in this field for you, my dear audience, don't forget that you can send in your questions for the end of the panel, which will be a Q&A with your questions. So when we stay on the topic of customers, I know that a lot of B2B startups find it, especially at the beginning, very difficult to find their first customers or to have big customers, and you seem to be really good in this. So can you share a tip?
I think I never knew an alternative. So I had this torture and luxury that I had to sell if I want to make things happen. And a lot of startups have a luxury and a torture in the same time of getting few millions and just start. So both are good and bad in the same time. But I think on the long term, if you can't monetize your solution, at some point you will not survive. Even if the technology is great, the vision is huge, the team can make it, but if you cannot monetize, you won't survive. So how we did it, when we first sold our first robotic solution, it was for a company that was painting for the Swiss Army.
Okay.
And I was 25 years old, and the robotic solutions was 210,000 Swiss francs. So it was huge for me. It was the thing of my life. But thinking of how we sold it, we used everything. I mean, from cold emailing to cold calling, to actually buying the Gipfeli, yes, and bringing to each customer in the morning and trying to learn Schweizerdeutsch and to speak with the Swiss customers, yes. But when you do sales, I mean, we like to think about sales like an arsenal of different weapons and use them all in the same time and see what is working, what is not working, and create a strategy on top of the things that are actually working. So for us, 80% of our focus at Robonnement, even today, goes into sales, or maybe 70, but I would say 10, because it's just very, very important to know how to monetize. So we just took the phone, called all potential customers, we got 10,000 no's and 1 yes, and that yes made the difference. We made leverage with that, and you just do the work. Yeah.
There's no workaround. I can
no
feel it
workaround.
here.
No secret sauce.
No secret. So before we go into the questions, a very quick last question about one of your newest projects, and the project is called JAM. You are more. And it is the first 100% robotized specialty coffee chain in Europe. Every booth is fully automated and operated by a robotic barista. And the really interesting thing is that all of us, we can invest in one of these robots and see in real time how the profit is growing. So what was your idea with that, and why is it for you so important that we all have access to such a technology by investment?
When I understood how important robotics can be, like real pragmatic robots that are doing real jobs, solving real problems, I was more and more excited by the idea of making these robots accessible to everyone. So this is why we created the robot subscription first for the customers. But it wasn't enough. I mean, when we want to democratize it, it's not enough to have just anyone that can access it, we have to have another layer of ownership. I mean, who owns them? If we want to democratize them, we cannot just have the big guys and the rich guys own them, or the banks that have hundreds of millions, especially in the context of generative AI, robotics, connecting these dots, yeah? So then it was the idea, how would it be? You know, it was also a big need of refinancing these exotic assets 5 years ago, where no leasing company wanted to talk about them, yeah? So then it emerged this need of giving anyone the possibility and access to own, actually. I mean, if you have a small amount of money, you can do that. And we kind of recreated this first 2 years ago in Switzerland with Swiss peers. And then the idea was very nice, and we found a very good use case of creating specialty coffee with robots. And that was the first point, that Robonnement went from B2B to direct contact with an end user, with someone that actually sees how it works and what are these robots doing. And then it naturally emerged the possibility of crowd ownership of these robots, because in the future, I believe that technology will replace a lot of jobs.
So there's a question going in this direction.
Yes.
In what ways will robots influence the business world in 20 years, in your opinion?
I believe that most of the repetitive jobs and blue-collar jobs that are done today will disappear.
Okay.
Instead, there will appear a lot of creative jobs, and those will force us to rethink how we work. In 20 years, if the speed of technological development is keeping up just like it was in the last 5 years, we cannot even imagine how can we operate. I mean, today you can write 500 emails a day in a few hours, that's actually not even a day, in a few hours on your own using AI. So in 20 years, when the generative AI, what we use today to do stuff on the computer, will connect to robots that has the movements, you know, there will be a total another paradigm on the market. And this will influence a lot of jobs. And this is why I believe we have to create a safe environment for us, for humans, so that we actually remain in charge and we own the technology. And we make this technology work for us, make us space, time to be better people, to have more time for ourselves and more time to actually evolve as a humanity. So it will, if we make it right, it will be a huge thing for us.
So that's why for you it's so important that everyone has kind of access to these technologies.
Yes, exactly.
So we're already at the end of our talk. Thank you so much, Nimrod, for this very interesting insights into the robot-as-a-service world. And also thank you from my side. For me, it's already also the last session at this year's Startup Night. It was a pleasure to be one of the hosts again this year. And I wish you not only tonight for the rest of the program, but also for tomorrow, a lot of interesting insights and a lot of inspiration. Big applause for Nimrod Malinas from Robonnement.